I'm Sunny with Elan Transfers, and we're back today with another guest artist. We're going to be joined by Hannah Mir from Mir Valley Ceramics, and she's going to talk about applying underglaze transfers on bisqueware, which is a great topic, and a lot of people ask us about this, so we're excited to talk about that. And Hannah is about to join, so I'm going to let Here we go. Hi.
Hi, Sunny. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Happy to be doing this.
Good. I'm getting a little bit of my feedback of myself. Does anybody else, can anybody in the comments, does anybody else hear myself coming back on Hannah's? I think I'm okay now.
I think it glitched out for a second, and I think it's good now.
Yeah, I think we're good. Well, we're so excited to have you join us. Hannah is going to show us today about how to apply underglaze transfers on bisque, which is really cool. And a lot of people ask us about this topic, so I'm glad to be talking about it. Okay, so real quick, a couple of notes. So on our website, elantransfers.com, after the live ends, you're going to be able to find a list of like all the tools that Hannah uses today and from past interviews. And it's a great resource, so you can find written instructions on how to apply any of the Elan transfer, underglaze transfers and decals. And there's also some downloadable videos on there for you to check out. So you can check that out after the live today. So let's get into, and let me mention this. If anyone has any questions, we love to hear questions in the chat. If you wouldn't mind putting your name before your question and even your location if you want to, that's really helpful for me to kind of be a little bit more personal and asking the questions to Hannah and answering some things. So that would be awesome if you guys could do that. And please feel free to ask questions in the chat because that's really helpful for us too. And we want to know what you're thinking. Okay,
I wonder if other people are hearing the feedback, because somebody was writing in that they were seeing the feedback across my face. I'm not sure if that's how that's happening, but
okay, well, we'll see. Hopefully it's okay. Okay. All right, so let's see. We love how you use your underglaze transfers on your work because it's like very organic, very kind of like, to me, it seems like nature inspired. And I know that your like professional background isn't originally in pottery. So would you tell us like a little bit about how you got into it?
Sure. And if you can't hear me at any point, just raise your hand or something, Sunny, so I know, because I'm hearing parts of what you're saying. But so my background for over 20 years was in fashion design, and I started in women's wear, went to men's, and then did kids. And I was looking for an outlet, and I had taken a vacation to Arizona and was really inspired by the Native American pottery that I saw over there. And when I got back to New Jersey, I enrolled in community classes at two different places and was just trying to absorb as much as I could over here. And then it progressed to wanting to do it not just on the weekends, but on the weeknights. And then after, any moment that I could, and I got a wheel, and then fast forward a couple of years, and now I'm teaching happily in South Orange, New Jersey at a studio called Indigo Road Studio. So it's been a fast progression of where I got to this point, but I'm still loving every minute of it.
Yeah, that's great. Do you remember the first time that you tried Elan transfers, like underglaze transfers?
I was looking back on my feed, and I was trying to see when, thinking back the first time I'd use it, and it was when I started making wider pieces, and I had taken a hand building class, and I was starting to make some slab plates, and I was thinking of ways to apply it to flatter surfaces to give different types of visual interests. And the first type of Elan transfers that I started to get was a lot of the white ones that I was using on standards speckled 112 clay. And then as I started to fire it and see it and apply clear on top, I started to get into a path that I've been enjoying now, where I've been using black transfers on the speckled clay, and I'm sort of obsessing over it and love doing it now. So it's good.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. I use that standard 112 clay, so that's cool. All right, so I'm going to let you go ahead and switch around your camera so we can start the demo. And while you're doing
perfect.
that, I'm going to ask the viewers in the chat, we wanted to know how do you like to apply your transfers? So put a number 1 in the chat if you prefer to put it on like fresh clay or like leather hard clay, and put a number 2 in the chat if you like to put it on bisque. So number 1 for fresh clay, number 2 for bisque to apply your underglaze transfers. Today, Hannah is going to show us how to put it on bisque, which I think is going to be really cool and is a question that we get a lot. So I'm interested how everyone else likes to do it. All right, we got a fresh. I'm a fresh too.
I've tried it both ways. So I don't know if you can see here, I kind of pre-cut it out to make it a little bit easier for this demo. And what I've done is I took my bisque plate. I'm going to be just placing it down on this transfer. So right now I have the banana leaf transfer, and it's the side that you apply is face down to my table. And I traced a circle just of, the outline of the plate, took it off. And then I was thinking of how I wanted to apply the transfer on so as to not be applying the whole thing all over. I traced out, so this outline here, if you can make it out, there's a red outline of where the outside of the plate is. And then I drew where I was feeling like the pattern would lend itself organically to the plate shape. So I'm going to take this away. And I didn't want to cut live because I cut pretty slowly. But it's nice once you do have the cutout of seeing how you want it to be placed on the plate. And it's funny because once I got my plate and I laid it out, something to think about when you orient the piece that you've cut out. You could place it this way, maybe you like the pattern in a different direction. And so it's good to just visually see what type of way that you like the layout. So after I'd cut it out, it would be easier just to kind of smack it down here and then, start applying the transfer. But I wanted it to sort of come more so towards the edge. So it almost looks like that cutoff piece over here is coming more towards the edge of the plate. And then when I was looking at it on the plate, and I was seeing it before we did the demo, I was thinking that I kind of would like it to not have this piece and that piece. So this part I will cut out live, and I do have my scissors. And I guess it's, really just a aesthetic thing of how you feel like you would like to cut it. And I just have a standard pair of sharp scissors. And so these 2 leaves I thought would be better if they kind of came out. And I guess that's everybody's decision artistically, what it is that you feel.
Yeah, I love how thoughtful you're being about the placement of it.
What was that?
I love how thoughtful you're being with the placement of it.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of, because each piece with the shape and how it's going to be laying out, especially if the piece has curves on it.
Mm-hmm. Now, while you're cutting that out, I will say that 2 viewers today are going to be chosen to receive a promo code to get a free sample pack. And so you'll be contacted after the live ends on the Elan page via your DMs. So 2 viewers today will be chosen for that. And then also I will have a promo code to give at the end of the live. So you can stick around, and it'll be 10% off the entire site, elantransfers.com. Until midnight tonight. So I'll give that promo code at the end of today.
Okay. So I just cut out those 2 leaves. And now I'm going to place it further along to the edge. And one other thing that I just want to point out, and it might be easier to see when it's not on the bisque plate, is that if you look at it while it's on the table, I cut these little spaces that didn't have the print on it over here a little sliver over here and here. And you could do that. I guess that would apply to leather, hard clay, or bisqueware. But when you have a plate, even though these plates, these were wheel thrown and they do have a rounded edge, based on how I'm trying to do the layout, those little darts or slits in the paper tend to have it be, you know, make it easier to kind of finesse around those rounded edges. Okay. So then I have my tools over here. I have a little spoon rest with the ginkgo pattern, and this is how
nice.
it's going to look afterwards. And as far as all the transfers that I respond to, it's a lot of times these organic plant kind of shapes that I respond to. I know with bisqueware you can really be generous with how you apply the water.
Mm-hmm. So do you, if you were applying like fresh versus on bisqueware, what's the main difference in how you apply it? Is it just like water?
It's the level of water, and then also it's the amount of pressure and the amount of times. So I'm really getting more of a workout when I'm doing this because I'm really pressing it in a lot harder than I would had it just been on greenware, because I would be afraid of being a little bit too rough with the piece as I'm doing it. Just turning it around.
So if you have any questions to put in the chat, if you could put your name before the question, that would be great, so that I know who I'm talking to. One person asked if you ever do your transfers kind of like around the rim and over onto the back. I know I do that sometimes.
Oh, I totally do. And if it is a bowl, I had used the ginkgo bowl, and I had a reel of it where it kind of felt very organic and nice to have the pattern kind of continue to the back side of the bowl. So it's definitely depending upon the shape. It can lend itself more easily for how you want to do the layout.
So Jacqueline asked if you needed to biscuit again to set it before glazing, and the answer is no. I don't think you need to. I certainly don't. Do you ever do a second bisque if you apply it on bisqueware?
No, I haven't. I think I might have done that once by accident, if I remember correctly, but never intentionally. The less I can do, the happier I am in this whole pottery process, because it all takes so long.
Yeah. So, yes, someone said that transfers are still smudgeable after bisque. So that's true. Just make sure that you're not like washing them or adding water. Like sometimes you'll like rinse your bisqueware off before glazing. If you put it on pre, they'll wash off. Okay. So Jen from Maryland. Hi, I'm also, oh, it's Jen. Can you talk about how much water you're using?
Sure. I've dabbed in the bowl, in the sponge in the bowl. Let me put it here so you can see it a bit easier. And I keep on dabbing it and getting it wet, but then I keep on going back and sort of squeezing it out. So I think I might be on round 3, and I'm using a lot of pressure to press down on it. It's a little bit of a workout, if you can hear my voice changing. And also to the question that somebody was asked, or not question, but really saying that that it is smudgeable, I totally agree. And that's kind of even more of a reason why I like to lay it out so that I don't smudge it around the edges. So I am being pretty generous with the pressure that I'm using and trying to use enough water. Oop, and I just lifted it up accidentally, so I'm just going to put that down a little bit. Okay. And now I have my mud tools.
Go ahead.
What'd you say, Sunny?
Go ahead.
Oh, no problem. So I just have my mud tools sponge, And I'm just going to, I feel like this might even be overkill. I don't know how much you really have to do this. I know that I used to do it when I was doing it on, when it is in the greenware state. But I honestly feel like my other key to knowing that it's ready to start the peel off. You see this once, I don't know, I'm going to hold it up so you can see it closer. There's this one spot that, yes, it did overlap, but it is a little bit darker. And then here where there's no overlap, it is a bit darker. So that's telling me that I could apply a little bit more pressure and a little bit more water. So I'm just going to go over with my sponge one more time in the spots where I see any dark spots.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
the
is,
you can really, when you're applying it in person, you can really usually see the spots that have transferred fully and the spots that haven't. So Sheila asked about why it would smear on bisque. It's not fully fired after bisque, and so when you fire it up to cone 6, like if there was no clear glaze or anything on top of it, then it would be like touch safe. It's not going to come off, but like this is just applied on bisque and it's not fully fired like up to, this is cone 06, so it needs to fire at least to cone 6 to not be smearing. If anyone has a more technical answer, feel free to chime in, but it's just not fully fired yet after a bisque fire if you were to apply it on like fresh clay and bisque fire it. So that's why you need to be careful about getting it wet or smearing it.
so this is the fun part, the peel, and it is pretty satisfying.
That does
And I like when it is, I like when it is all connected and it comes off in one swoop. And I'm going pretty slowly. And sometimes when I'm doing this, you know, and I'm going slowly, if I am conscious of it, I will kind of peel back a little bit, take a peek and see, has the color been adhering to the bisque piece? And if it has, then I don't need to apply any more water or pressure. But if it has, then I'm good to go and I don't have to. And this came off pretty smoothly, like it's pretty consistent. I had done a piece with the Monstera leaf, and because that pattern has a bit more coverage and the line work on the Elan Transfer is more heavy on that one, and this one is finer. This one has a tendency to be a bit more forgiving because you're not pressing these bigger opaque areas to get that coverage. So that was the first plate. And then, Sunny, if we have a little bit more time,
Yeah,
I was going to show.
Yeah, get
I
ready.
was
I have
going
a
to
question.
show. So I have another. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, get ready. So Tracy asked if you wanted to have it without any glaze, you couldn't use a clay that you only fire to cone 5. I believe that it has to be to cone 6 if you want it to be raw, to be like food safe and not come off. And then Jacqueline asked, does it adhere better to bisque than greenware? I think it's personal preference, and I think it's just the practice that you're going to have to do. In my practice, I have not had very good luck doing it on greenware, but like Hannah was saying, it also depends on the transfer that you're doing. So these ones have nice fine lines, so they transfer a little bit cleaner, but the ones that have like really thick sections of like black or color, those ones are going to be a little bit tougher to transfer on bisqueware than on like a fresh clay or a leather hard clay. And the main difference in applying the two is that on bisqueware, you're going to need to use more water and more pressure, and it's going to take a little bit more time. But both of them will turn out beautiful if, you know, if the transfer goes well. So it's just personal preference in your practice.
Sunny, I don't mean to cut you off. I was just going to show on the ginkgo pattern. When looking at this pattern, it is it's a fluid pattern that isn't connected on the different motifs in the pattern, which is cool to me, because then I feel like you could take this pattern and there are so many different ways to apply it. And this one I think is a great example of being able to take little portions of it. Maybe you apply like this portion and then there's a smaller motif even on the bottom or on the side. So I have another 9-inch dinner plate. It's the same size as before. Because I'm going for more of an organic layout with this, it is more forgiving in my opinion, and like the artist's discretion of how you would want to apply it. The piece that I'm responding to is this motif that's here. And then I love how these little 4 pieces, they kind of wrap around. So I'm just going to, and that's going to be a quicker cutout. So I'm just going to quickly cut that out while trying not to cut out other parts so that later on, if you did want to go back and use it, you still have those in your library of patterns to use. So I'm just
Something
cutting out
that
this big section. Oh, go ahead.
something that I find if I'm applying it to fresh clay and I'm cutting out kind of sections where there isn't like an extra edge is that on Bisqueware, if you're applying kind of in sections, you're not going to get that like rub on your clay. Does that make sense? But if I'm applying it on something that's like fresh or leather hard and I don't have the entire piece covered and I just have like a little section of it, I need to be really careful around the edge of it. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes, to me it does.
And I just want to remind everyone, if you have any questions, which we love questions, please put your name and your location if you want to in the chat before your question. 2 viewers today will be chosen for a promo code for a free sample pack on the Elan Transfers website. And I will have a promo code at the end of the live today for 10% off the whole website, elantransfers.com. That is good until midnight tonight. So stick
Sunny,
around if you like that.
Sunny, I think the connection broke up a little bit when you were trying to say the code.
Oh, I'll give the code at the end.
Okay, perfect.
And
Okay.
if anyone ever has any questions kind of in between like lives and everything, there is a Facebook group and it is called Elan Transfers and Decals. It has 22,000 members. You can go on there for any kind of underglaze transfers or decals. It doesn't have to be Elan's. There's a ton of helpful information. You can post pictures and get feedback about your work. And that's a great spot to go and just kind of have discussions anytime about Elan transfers or any underglaze transfers.
You were saying it's a transfer group for different makers of transfers, or it's
a Facebook group. It's called Elan Transfers and Decals. There's over 22,000 members on Facebook. And so if you're ever wanting to talk about things, if you're having problems, there are a ton of helpful just like resources on there and people who know what they're doing. So that's a great spot to go even if you just want to share your work and show it off. Yeah, Elan Transfers and Decals is what it's called.
Got it.
And
so I'm just looking at this wrapper.
I was just going to say that,
I'm just
this is the Ginkgo Elan underglaze transfer.
Got it. So I'm just looking at this pattern on the plate, and I want one little other smaller motif to kind of go over here, just to have it like almost flow like an ocean wave kind of ginkgo pattern. So I'm just looking at the pattern for one more little motif that I'm going to cut out and then see how it looks. And this is a lot of how I do a lot of them, where some of them are more meticulous, like if I'm using a GR form and it's been slab rolled and it's a very finite space, those I tend to cut it out very exact and place it very precisely. But on this, where I want it to be a little bit more unique and free-flowing, I kind of just freestyle it and have fun with it. So I'm going to go ahead, and I know it's not full coverage, but just go ahead and place a little bit more water on it and do the same method that I did on the other piece. And you saw it was pretty quick. So I'm Team Bisqueware.
Your Team Bisque, yeah. And if anyone is watching this later and you want to tell us, let us know in the comments of this video. This video will be reposted on the Elan Transfers page. So if you prefer to apply your underglaze transfers to fresh or like leather hard clay, or if you prefer to apply to Bisqueware. Someone asked if they can be applied over slip. That is an awesome question. And the next guest that we're going to have on is on September 26th. Megan Hudson from HMade Studio is going to come on and show us how she uses slip with underglaze transfers. So I'm really excited to talk to her. This is something that I'm also really interested in doing. So we will have some really good info on September 26th about using them with slip.
You know what? I just want to add one thing, and I know I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth, but although I was saying I'm Team Bisque, I just have to show you. So I had done the Moroccan tile transfers. For this, when it's so exact, this was way easier to do while it was still soft clay. So I really cut around the edges.
Will you show that one more time?
Sure.
So this is kind of what she was describing in the middle, how it's just like solid black. That's the kind of thing going on. A fresh clay is going to be so much easier because that moisture is already there. If she was putting that on the bisqueware, that would be a little bit tougher to transfer onto the bisque because you need so much moisture to get it in, and that bisqueware is not moist.
And like this, you know, this pattern too, even being that solid portion with it being put on wet clay, it was definitely easier. So the clay was right out of the bag, and I just had done it, and it was a lot easier to cut around the edges. That was my first try at doing it on a tile, and I learned a lot about patience and warping. But I would like to try it again. I do have more of those Moroccan tile transfers that are pretty cool. I don't remember. I think there might be two different sizes or two different sets of patterns, but I love mixing and matching them, so I sell those as coasters.
Yeah, I love those patterns. Someone also asked if there are any Christmas or holiday patterns up on Elan's website. And it looks like they right now have ornaments, trees, snowflakes, snowy trees, and holly berries. And don't forget, at the end of the live, I'm going to give you a promo code for 10% off the whole website to use until midnight tonight.
I might have to get some myself.
Yeah. ElanTransfers.com is the website, and you can get them on there. And also on the website, you're going to be able to find a show notes page where you can look back at like this interview and past interviews and future interviews of like the tools that the artists used. And there also are written instructions on how to apply Elan transfers and overglaze decals. And there are some free downloadable videos on there with instructions that you can also use. If you're seeing Glenley Farms commenting, that's Leanne. She is Elan Transfers, so she can answer any kind of questions for you on there. Also, Dirty Deeks, they are one and the same with Elan, so if they're answering questions in the chat, listen to them. They're experts.
So back to the fun part of peeling it off.
So Hannah,
this one is
go ahead.
This one is a good example of not applying it with a rib. So I just skipped the rib on this one because I was just curious for myself also. And, you know, it might really not be needed because it looks pretty clear. But again, the pattern is forgiving because of the fine lines.
And so just to remind everyone, this is Hannah Mir from Mir Valley Ceramics, and she's showing us how she applies the Elan underglaze transfers on bisqueware. And so for this, she used more water than she would use on like fresh clay, and she like pressed really hard into it to get it to transfer onto that bisque.
So now we have both of these guys. And the nice thing that I like about, you know, having different prints that are in the same colorway or the same, like, whatever color of the pattern that you choose, it's kind of cool when you do markets or sales. They all sort of sit together nicely as a collection, even though they're different patterns, which is really neat.
Have you found that a specific Elan transfer sells like the best for you, or like a kind of tile, like genre or transfer?
Sunny, I'm going to turn the camera around.
Yeah, please.
Because hang on one sec.
Yeah.
I'm not that techie.
No, it's all good.
Okay.
I'll just remind everyone while you're turning the camera around, there's a Facebook group called Elan Transfers and Decals. You can find helpful information. A ton of artists, potters are on there. They will give you feedback on your work or help if you need it. So that is a great place to go if you are a potter who likes using transfers. That again is Elan Transfers and Decals over on Facebook.
So you were asking me, Sunny, if there were patterns that I feel like have sold well. So I have made, I tried to surround myself around them because I knew that we were doing this, but I had the banana leaf also like on a mug. Like anytime I use these plant motifs, even the ones that are like the potted plants, they do really well. And then this guy was the hibiscus. I think it's a hibiscus. This one does well too, but a lot of the ones that I use have only been plant ones. So the only one that I kind of deviated from in terms of pattern has been the Moroccan tile one. And I have a fair in a market coming up in October. So I'm curious to see how that one does. Hopefully it does well.
Yeah, I also find that like nature inspired ones kind of do the best for me. So I have two questions that came in. One person said, are the plates wheel thrown or hand built? They are wheel thrown. And they asked what clay was used on those.
Those are standards. There is a standard 112 clay that's being used on those plates. And they're about 3 pounds of clay, 9-inch plate.
Nice. Another person, Amy, asked kind of the process of that. And I don't have the question right in front of me, but she wheeled through the plates, bisqued them, applied the transfer. There's no glaze in between. So bisque, apply the transfer, and now you'll glaze them and glaze fire them. So I hope that answered your question, Amy.
Oh, it totally did. Perfect.
Great. All right. Well, as we wrap up, we're going to start doing a couple of like rapid fire questions with our artists that are on. So I'm going to ask you a quick couple, if you can just answer in like 1 or 2 words. Okay. What is your favorite Elan underglaze transfer?
I think it's the banana leaf. It's the one that I've used most often.
Okay. And then what is your favorite, we kind of already talked about it, your favorite kind of clay to put underglaze transfers on?
It's the standard 112.
Yeah, me too. That's what I use as well. Okay, so one person asked how long, this isn't a rapid fire question, how long do you wait before glazing when you apply to bisque?
I don't really wait, but I am a slow maker. So it kind of waits for me is the best way that I could ask. So I'm always behind, unfortunately. So it probably just sits there until I have the motivation to glaze. And glazing is like my least favorite thing in the world. And that's probably how transfers also distract me from glazing, because it gives me another surface decoration besides just thinking of new glaze combo.
Yeah.
It was a long answer, sorry.
No, I mean, definitely wait long enough that like any moisture from applying it is dried. That's kind of the short answer. But yeah, okay. So someone asked if we'll get back to the rapid fires in a second. If you could apply the underglaze transfer on top of glaze. That is no, but there are overglaze decals that you can do, which are a different kind of decal, and you can kind of see more info about that on the Elan Transfers website. There's like a how to apply them, and we'll have another guest on in the future that shows us how to.
Yeah, I think the connection might be bad. Do you mind just repeating that question one more time?
Someone had asked if they could put underglaze transfers on top of glaze. And so I was just kind of explaining about overglaze decals that you can put on top. Okay, so real quick back into rapid fires. Do you like to listen to anything while you're in the studio?
I do. I like to listen to the Maker's Playbook with Rebecca Icaskara, and I've been sort of listening to, I think I joined it late, so I listened to it from beginning to, I'm still diving through all of them.
I love that. Okay, and one last one, not related. Do you have a favorite flower?
Do I have what?
A favorite flower.
I do, peonies.
Peonies, beautiful. And that's a leading question so that I can mention Glenlee Farm, which is Elan's farm up in Frederick, Maryland. And they have a ton of flowers, cut your own flowers. And Elan is going to be opening a store in downtown Frederick, hopefully next spring, which will be really fun. And I'm really looking forward to it because I live right near here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share our promo code for today. It's September 12. September 12th. There's no space right here, one word. And it's 10% off on the whole website until midnight tonight. So go on and do it. I did see that it works internationally as well in the comments. And then let's see, I'm all shuffled up in my notes. Okay, so we will be back on September 26th to talk to Megan Hudson from HMade Studio, and she's going to talk about using slip with underglaze transfers, which I'm really excited to talk about. If any of the viewers who are watching this later, if you have any topics that you'd really love covered, let us know in the comments so we can kind of get on booking some guests to talk about those things. Hannah, it was really nice talking to you. I love watching your process. I love your work. I think it's so beautiful and like so organic. Also, I'm kind of biased because Hannah and I do Throwing with Molly together with Molly Sanuer. So like we've talked basically every week for like a year. So this was really fun to just chat with you.
I couldn't have said it any better, and I'm very happy for you to have had me. And I was mentioning to Molly that this couldn't have happened had we not met through the group, which is pretty amazing, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, we'll be back on September 26th. Thanks everyone for joining us. One more time, the promo code right now, September 12th. It's good today until midnight for 10% off elantransfers.com. And we'll talk to everybody in a couple weeks. Thanks.
Thanks, Sonny. Bye.